Doctrine of Audi Alteram Partem. Meaning and concept. The expression Audi Alteram Partem literally means hear the other side or let the other side be heard. It embodies the fundamental principle of the right to be heard, which is an essential component of the principles of natural justice. It is an essential requirement of fair justice that a person whose rights, interests, or position may be adversely affected by a judgment or order must be given a reasonable opportunity of being heard. The affected person must have an opportunity to know the case or charges against him, meet the allegations, and present his own defense before an adverse decision is made. Scope of the doctrine. Application to judicial and administrative actions. The application of Audi Alteram Partem is not confined to judicial proceedings in the strict sense. It extends to quasi-judicial functions and where circumstances require, also to administrative actions. The underlying purpose is to ensure fairness in decision making and to prevent a person from being condemned unheard. Audi Alteram Partem as a principle of natural justice. National Textile Workers Union versus P.R. Ramakrishnan. In National Textile Workers Union versus P.R. Ramakrishnan AIR 1983, the Supreme Court recognized the Audi Alteram Partem as one of the basic principles of natural justice. The court emphasized that natural justice is not merely a technical principle restricted to administrative law, it represents a broader principle of fair procedure which may be applied wherever the circumstances require a person to be given an opportunity to be heard. Swadeshi Cotton Mills versus Union of India. In Swadeshi Cotton Mills versus Union of India, the Supreme Court observed that the rule of Audi Alteram Partem is a flexible, adaptable, and practical concept of natural justice. Its application depends upon the facts and circumstances of each case. The rule is therefore not rigid, or mechanically applicable in exactly the same manner in every proceeding. Essential elements of Audi Alteram Partem. The first essential requirement is that the affected person must receive adequate notice of the case or proceedings against him. The notice should be sufficiently clear and specific to enable the person to understand the allegations or issues which he is required to answer. Opportunity to meet the case. The person must be given a reasonable opportunity to rebut the allegations or case made against him. The opportunity should be meaningful and not merely a formal or empty procedure. Right to know the evidence. The affected party should ordinarily be informed of the evidence or material relied upon against him. No material which substantially influences the decisions should ordinarily be used behind the back of the affected person without giving him an opportunity to respond. Right to cross examine. Where witnesses are produced against a person and cross examination is necessary for a fair determination of the matter, the affected party may be entitled to cross examine such witnesses. The availability of cross examination, however, depends upon the nature of the proceeding and the circumstances of the particular case. Right to produce evidence. The person affected by the proceedings should ordinarily have an opportunity to produce evidence in support of his own case. This enables the decision making authority to consider both sides before reaching its conclusion. Important English cases: Stapleton versus O'Callaghan. In Stapleton versus O'Callaghan, 1946 KB 621, the principle was recognized that evidence should not ordinarily be given behind the back of the opposite party. Where written evidence is relied upon, it should generally be made available to the other party so that the person has a fair opportunity to respond to it. Sparkman versus Plum State District Board of Workers. In Sparkman versus Plum State District Board of Workers, it was recognized that a party is entitled to notice of the hearing. The purpose of giving notice is to ensure that the affected party has an adequate opportunity to rebut the case made against him. The notice should therefore sufficiently inform the party of the case which he has to meet. Flexibility of the doctrine, no rigid formula. Audi Alteram Partem is not inflexible rule. The nature and extent of the hearing required depend upon the circumstances of each case. The procedure may vary according to the nature of the power being exercised, the consequences of the decision, the urgency of the situation, and the requirements of fairness. Thus, the doctrine is essentially concerned with providing a fair and reasonable opportunity of hearing rather than insisting upon one fixed procedure in every case. Importance of Audi Alteram Partem. Prevention of arbitrary decisions. The doctrine prevents authorities from taking adverse decisions without hearing the person affected. Fair decision making. It ensures that the decision maker considers the case of both sides before reaching a conclusion. Protection of individual rights. It protects individuals against arbitrary administrative and quasi-judicial action and strengthens the rule of law. Now, here is the conclusion. The doctrine of Audi Alteram Partem is a fundamental principle of natural justice which embodies the right to be heard. It requires that a person likely to be adversely affected by a decision should ordinarily be given adequate notice and opportunity to know and meet the case against him and a reasonable opportunity to present his own case. The doctrine applies not only to judicial proceedings but, depending upon the circumstances, also to quasi judicial and administrative actions. Its ultimate object is to ensure fairness, impartiality, and justice in decision making.